Now then, as a result of Australia's ongoing terrible wildfires, it's believed that a staggering 1 billion animals have been killed across the country.
And as rescuers race to save and treat those affected, Dr Scott Miller is on Kangaroo Island, seeing firsthand the devastating effects these fires have had. Now, it's worth pointing out that the film you're about to see contains footage of animals that have died.
With nearly half of Kangaroo Island's landmass being incinerated by bushfires, it's estimated that at least 35,000 koalas have been killed. I'm on my way to the island to help with the rescue efforts for the surviving koalas, but it's sad to see what should be a boat full of tourists visiting the island's wildlife is instead a boat full of rescue workers on their way to fight for the koalas' survival. Arriving off the ferry, I meet Sam Mitchell, who runs a wildlife reserve on the island, which he has now turned into a rescue centre.
Got to be quite quick. We've got a couple of koalas have been called about just now. We're heading south. If you look behind you there, we've got a big fire about to start, so we're going to try and get out that way before it takes off too much.
Since the fire's savagery burnt 150,000 hectares of land on the island, Sam now travels around looking for surviving koalas that desperately need his help.
We might see over 500 koalas this week. We've seen well over 200. Probably 300 now, we just can't keep track. But unfortunately the body pit's filling up fast as well. There's a lot that just don't stand a chance. They come in and they're just too far gone, or the injuries are too extreme, so the best thing for them is to euthanise them as quickly and humanely as possible.
Koalas need to eat 10% of their body weight every day, but with about 80% of their habitat now gone, the koalas here are suffering from starvation, which is why we need to work as quickly as we can.
Hey Scott, so what have you got?
We found a little koala in Little Terra Creek here, just down the road. Yeah, just sipping on some water, and yeah, we just grabbed him.
Hello mate, you alright? Hey? Hello, you alright? So he's definitely looking a little bit dazed. He's probably going to be quite dehydrated as well. It is so dry and so burnt around here.
I reckon we'll get him straight out of the heat into the box and get him home.
Yeah. Feisty male, huh?
Yeah.
He looks like he's got a few burns on his feet, but just by the fact that he's been vocalising and put up a little bit of fight means that this guy probably will make it.
Unfortunately, our next rescue wasn't quite as simple. While Sam went back with the first koala, I waited for the fire service to help a mother and Joey who looked in trouble out of a tree.
You just don't want her to run up the tree, that's all.
With this mother being protective of her baby, the rescue was proving difficult.
All right, honey, good girl. Just watch yourself because they can bite, obviously. And then watch out for baby. That's all right. Yeah, there's a Joey. Okay, sit. Come on. I know, honey. That's it. Okay, you got her. That's it. Right, okay. That's it. Okay. That's it. Okay, no, don't do that. Come on, you've got to come down. Come on. Come on. That's it, that's it. Got her. That's it, I've got her. Yep, I've got her. Yeah, she's just biting baby. Whoa, catch, good catch. It's all right, it's okay. I mean, Mum's clearly very, very distressed at the moment. She's worried about her baby. She's traumatised. She's in a war zone. Okay, go on, in you go, honey. It's a good girl. Let's get you back to the hospital. Good girl. Sit.
Time to take these koalas from this burnt landscape to get the help they so desperately need.
Let's go and get you some fluids, mate.
Yep.
With countless volunteers and help from the Army, Sam's Emergency Wildlife Hospital is the best place for these koalas. It's great to see our first rescue koala, Tank, is doing much better.
He's going to go into the recovery ward at the back there, but the males, there's a big enclosure there with lots of feed, and they get to just roam around in there.
So it sounds like this patient's been quite a lucky boy.
He has been a very lucky boy.
The Australian government has sent over 100 troops to the island to help with the wildlife rescue. And Army vet Jess is looking after the mother and Joey I helped to rescue earlier.
He's the smallest that I've seen since I've been here, so we'll be treating that eye and having a really good look at him.
And like most children, after a visit to the doctor, it's time for a treat.
So many little fluffy toys, so he can have that one, that's his toy.
So cute.
Unfortunately, this Joey's mum has severe burns on her feet, which have to be treated.
So I feel like I need to get involved with your mummy and help Jess. So you go there. But I didn't actually realise that there were vets in the army.
Not many people do, actually. There's not that many, and we're always in need of more vets.
The burns have been cleaned and dressed, and in a few days' time, when the koala has recovered, she will be reunited with her Joey.
No, you're not a good boy.
For all the koalas here, there is hope, but only in captivity. It takes a long 7 years for the vegetation they need to survive to grow back, strong enough to support the species. Outside the hospital, the fires rage on, and the future's looking bleak for tens of thousands of koalas.
Living a life up a tree and now dying a very, very painful death is just so hard to witness. What this poor creature's gone through and what the Australian people are going through right now is truly horrendous, and they desperately need our help.
It is utterly heartbreaking. Dr. Scott is with us now from Australia. He's about to board a flight home. Scott, thank you for joining us this morning. I mean, just watching that, you can see the devastating effect these fires have had. For you as a vet, seeing these animals that inspired you to go into this in the first place, so horrifically injured and dying, I mean, this must have been so tough.
Look, I tell you, it was just overwhelming. And when people talk to you about these sorts of things, you kind of have a little bit of an understanding, but only once you get there can you truly appreciate the scale of the devastation. Like, it was honestly, it was like a wildlife war zone. There were charred animals strewn on the road. There's an area to the west of the island that has been completely decimated, and that was actually where the national park is. Fire services were, racing towards the fire, and walls of animals running in the other direction. It's thousands and thousands of animals we're talking about here, and yeah, absolutely. I'm an Aussie. I'm a vet. I was inspired by these animals, and to see their plight and to see how dreadfully they've been treated and how they've responded to this fire has been, really, really tough to deal with.
We saw you treating the baby koala and his mum. How are they doing now?
Yeah, so I popped into the sanctuary just before I left to feed the little koala who they've nicknamed Scotty. So he's doing really well, thanks. I gave him his first bottle this morning. He took that really well, like a good boy. I tell you, it was so hard to leave him because, I really was so emotional. I cried last night because it was just amazing to, see this mother and baby up a tree and to be the one to save them. So you're saving two lives of an Aussie icon, and I was so overwhelmed. It was just so wonderful that I could go. It was really incredible.
Yeah, and the centre that you visited was a temporary animal hospital. With the amount of sort of habitat that's been burned away and the number of animals that have been injured, these sort of temporary centres, surely they're going to have to be around for a lot longer.
Well, that's what's so heartbreaking, is there's a very distinct possibility that the next generation of koalas on Kangaroo Island will have to be in captivity because there is simply nowhere to release them. They only eat 3 different types of eucalypt trees, and most of those forests have been completely wiped out. So any of the animals that are surviving, it will take at least 7 years before those types of trees will regenerate enough to be able to cope with a koala population. So little Scotty that I rescued, he will very likely, it'll only be his offspring that will be able to be in the wild of Kangaroo Island. It's a massive long-term problem, and people do need to keep supporting and donating all the charities that are working out there, because this is not a problem for this week or this month or this year. It is going to be years and years to come.
Scott, well, thank you very much.
Well done,
You're about
you.
to board your flight, so safe flight home,
Yes.
and thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Well done.
Thanks very much.